Hey YouTube, it's Hyperion. I'm going to get straight to the sound, but first check out my sounds at synthmob.com and the link below, and follow me on soundcloud.com at soundcloud.com/theincrediblyhyped. Okay, so here's the sound again. We're going to be making this Disclosure deep house style FM bass today in Massive. That was an example, but here's the actual sound we're going to end up making. Alright, so let's get started. So the underlying principle here today is that Massive is traditionally an additive subtractive synthesizer, meaning that you can compound these different waveforms, layering them over the top of each other to get your sounds, and using envelopes and different kind of modulation factors to get the kind of timbre that you want. But this kind of deep house sound is very, very characterized by just FM synthesis. FM synthesis meaning there's a carrier wave and you modulate it over time, whereas you're actually changing the waveform. So let's go ahead and grab a few sine waves, because when we modulate the waveform it's going to get a little complex. So let's grab a few sine triangles, and we're going to use 3 oscillators today for a little more stereo width and just thickness, because we're going to drop this one down an octave. Put this one down 4 cents and put that one up 7 cents, give it a little stereo width so it sounds nice and big and wide. And you can limit that stereo width to mono in the low end if you want to later on, just to get it to mix to gel better. So the biggest part of the sound is that we're using FM synthesis, and Massive is traditionally not an FM synthesizer. If you wanted FM, you would use FM8 by Native Instruments, or this sound is kind of coming out of the whole Yamaha DX7 era after FM synthesis was discovered. So the idea behind this is that it's like an FM radio, okay? So you're tuning into a channel, let's say 102.7, and that's your carrier wave, okay? And then you have your modulation wave, which is what we're going to use this mod osc for. So we're kind of cheating Massive here, and you'll see how in just a second. So you modulate the wave, and by superposition of waves, when you're applying one wave to the other, they add in a funny way. I'm not really going to get into it right now, but you can hear the sound for all your intents and purposes. So we're going to turn phase onto 1, and we'll pull this all the way down, and we'll take an envelope and route it to the phase. Okay, we'll pitch this up an octave so that every time this envelope hits, it kind of bounce, and that's where you get the kind of real hollow-y sounding FM sound. So I made a wave table here, or an envelope here earlier. I'll just paste it. So this is going to be the envelope you want in here. Have your attack very low, so it hits pretty. It kind of almost starts at this modulated waveform, and it kind of comes out of it. So when you modulate it, it becomes like a higher frequency, and so it'll slowly drop to this lower tone. So bow, 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 bow. That'll be pretty much the sound. I'll go over these in just one moment. And then take your second envelope and put it up on a low pass 2 filter, and give it a little nudge up. That'll just give it a little more high end later on in the sound, so it'll kind of accentuate how hollow the sound is. It's not entirely important, but you might want to have it. Have your mix on mix 1, just because we want this low pass filter stuff. Most of the sound's going to be inside this envelope anyway. This high end doesn't matter so much. Also, we want a reverb and a delay synced. And delay synced, you want a little more feedback, a little more damp, but a little less dry wet. Turn the dry wet and the size down on the reverb, and turn the density up and the color up a little bit more too. Okay, back here, we just assigned some macros to these handles so that by moving 2, let's just call this tone. And when you move 2, it'll move both these at the same time. And this V means it's controlled by the velocity. So how hard you hit the level, which is the amplitude of this initial envelope, is going to depend on how hard the velocity of the note is. So that means in this context that harder hit notes with higher velocity are going to have that more hollow sounding thunk that you'd like in a deep house. So that's going to be really interesting. So we can just keep thickening this up with some EQ. Let's give it a lot more low shelf. It's going to be more of a low shelf kind of sound, and give it a little boost at this lower thing. And high frequencies don't really matter so much. And then if you really care to, you can give it a little bit of distortion. Give it, let's just give it a little parabolic shaper. And that's basically the sound today, guys. Oh, one last thing. The most important part is you want this this envelope routing over here on the phase up high. Okay, so that's going to be the entire sound. Is when this hits, it's going to go thunk, 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 because every time that hits, it's going to go womp, womp. It automates this phasing. Okay, so that's how we're applying this mod oscillator. So we phase these carrier waves, okay, or rather this one, because this is the only one that's being phased. But that's what's gonna give it the thunk, 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 thunk. And then for our fourth envelope, we just want a nice plucky sound. Okay, that's the sound. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video and learned something. Hopefully, I'll get into a little more analog electronics later in the future. If you guys enjoyed hearing about the radio, I built my own FM radio. You can make your own little pirate radio station. It's kind of fun. Yeah, remember to subscribe, download my sounds at synthmob.com at the link below, and follow me on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/theincrediblyhyped. I'll see you next time. Thanks.